The Boys is back with Season 4, and after nearly 2 years since the finale of Season 3, it's safe to say that it definitely delivered and was worth the wait. With Gen V being planted in the middle of that break, it definitely softened how long the wait felt, but it felt good to be back with Butcher, Homelander, Starlight, and the rest of the gang. With three whole episodes being released as its premiere, there was a lot to unpack from the returning characters and also the new characters that were thrown into the 7. So with that, let's jump into the video and break down all that there was to take away from the show so far. Here is The Boys Season 4 Episodes 1 to 3, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. With it being 3 whole episodes to break down, I feel the best way to approach this video will be to look at each of the characters, their arcs, and how they connect to the wider plot. But before we get into that, let's look at the overall plot for the story of Season 4 and the backdrop for the season. So it very much seems like since the end of Season 3 of the show, the state of America has become divided. You've got a group of people in support of Homelander, and you've got another group of people which are in support of Starlight, called the Starlighters. In terms of a political landscape, the Starlighters seem more towards the middle but on the left side, but they're being positioned as being super left and woke, whereas the Homelanders seem to be extremely far on the right hand side of the political spectrum. This isn't something which seems to just be impacting political views, it's impacting the state of the city, and it's almost like a civil war is on the brink of erupting. This is due to the fact that both sides seem to be against one another and the physical violence that seems to happen when the two sides meet. So the whole divide of the boys versus the 7, which was present in Season 1 of the show and the very premise that the show was built on, has now snowballed into the public setting. And we're seeing people's views almost dictate a lot of the way that they live their life due to the way that Homelander supporters are so extreme, and Homelander is also pressing for soup supremacy. Whilst on the topic of Homelander, let's start with him in these first 3 episodes. What I found particularly interesting about Homelander in these first 3 episodes of the season is that we saw him growing to become fed up with all that he's achieved. He's always yearned to be loved, and he is loved by most of the people that follow him, but there are a couple of things that are causing him to grow tired. Even though he's loved by the masses and they'll cheer for him if he does good, but also cheer for him if he does bad, the one person that he wants the love from isn't giving it to him, and that's his son Ryan. Despite being his son, the human side of Ryan seems to take precedent and has the largest hold over him. Something which means that guilt, empathy and remorse is what leads Ryan's core, especially after doing wrong. As well as that, it also seems like the one thing that Homelander can't seem to escape is age, and that has fast become one of his biggest insecurities, with his grey hair being something that plagues his mind, and also comments about de-aging VFX being used, causing him to feel bad about himself even more. It's the one thing that he can't avoid, and he's arguably the most vain person on the planet, so by knowing that he's not the man that he once was, it's ultimately leading him at his core within his own head and the demons that he has within it. As well as feeling as though he's aging, as much as he wants to push his son into the limelight, he doesn't want his son to take any of the light off of him. Hence why we saw him arrive at the crime that Ryan was supposed to be the sole hero of. Homelander's ego simply can't let anybody else save the day, not even his own son. When it comes to Homelander's main mission that he wants soup supremacy to lead the nation. As he said on multiple occasions, humans are just humans, toys for our amusement. He believes that soups are the superior species and that they should be running things, hence why he wants Victoria Newman and Singer to win, and for her to essentially become president, as then the nation will be led by a soup. He also wants a soup in every town in the country with superiority over the police force. He wants the nation to be a state governed and dictated by soups, something that the people that support him don't even truly know the full extent of. As well as that, Homelander's own mind is something that's proving to be his enemy, like what we saw in the previous season where his mind was playing tricks on him and the alternative personality started coming out. It seems like that's the case with him again. The past seems to be a common theme of this season, whether it be Kimiko and the Shining Light organization, Frenchie and the fact that he killed Colin's family, Butcher and his debt to Becca who's dead, and even Hughie with his mother coming back. But with Homelander, the last we saw of him was him telling himself that he had to go back to where it all started for him to be able to address the issues that he has inside of him at the present time. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. We're finally going to learn more about Homelander's origin. Butcher. With regards to Butcher in these few episodes, I actually feel like we saw a lot of growth within the character. So due to taking Temp V in Season 3, as we saw him using on a regular basis, it now seems as though the warning that he was constantly getting told, which was that if he kept using it at the rate that he was, he'd bring upon an early death, it's now something that's going to come true, as he only has 6 months to live. The main purpose of Butcher in this season is to carry out the debt that he feels as though he owes to Becca. He doesn't want Ryan to be in the hands of Homelander due to Becca's fear of what Homelander could mold him into. At the end of the day, he has the capability of being able to cause as much damage and destruction as what Homelander does. Whilst the rest of the boys are pretty much focusing on supporting the Starlighters and preventing Homelander's wider regime from spreading, whilst also bringing down Newman, Butcher did have some moments within that, but he seemed to be more focused on his personal issues due to being chucked out by the boys. We were introduced to Joe Kessler, who worked for the CIA, and he wanted to bring Ryan in so that he could mold him into not being Homelander, and potentially even take down his own father. Butcher planned on giving Ryan some cookies that were laced with a sedative, but after speaking with Ryan one-on-one, Butcher made the decision not to do so. There's a deep-rooted sense of care there for Ryan because he's 50% of Becca, the person that Butcher loved most in the world. So when he threw the cookies away after seeing how unhappy Ryan was and realizing that the traditional methods that he usually worked with weren't going to work with him and that the long game would be better and far less traumatizing, he decided to go with that approach. Butcher admitted that he was afraid of dying because he felt as though he was leaving the world without leaving his mark. His brother was dead, Becca was dead, and he had nothing to show for his life. So this does truly feel like it's Butcher's last dance, and by getting Ryan on side and stopping him from turning into an evil being like his father, that would almost be like his legacy. So I think that's why he's so invested in doing it. It also feels like the virus that stemmed from Godolkin is going to make its appearance in this season of the show too, considering that he mentioned it to Newman at the first opportunity that he got. Ryan. I found Ryan to be a particularly interesting character in these first few episodes. What's interesting about him is that he's the first naturally born soup ever. He wasn't given Compound V or made in a lab. He's 50% human and 50% soup, and the human side within him is something that seems to take the forefront. You can tell that his mother raised him as the goodness of her comes out a lot within him. When he's with Homelander, he seems to just be his puppet and does whatever he thinks will make his father happy. Whereas when he's with Butcher, we almost see Ryan become more comfortable and they have actual conversations. Homelander buys Ryan milkshakes and gets him a main role in the script, but Ryan doesn't want that. He doesn't want to be bought. He wants an actual father that will be there for him and has human characteristics because that's what he's used to. I think Ryan is going to be key in all of this. Ryan is probably going to be vital to changing the tides on Homelander, especially if he ends up joining the boys and Butcher. However, I don't think it'll go as smoothly as that, with Joe Kessler seeming like he's a bit of an old school Butcher and there not being many emotions inside of him with how he wants to approach the mission. I feel Ryan will be on the cusp of switching sides, and then something could potentially go wrong for the trust to be broken, and that could ultimately make him go down a destructive pathway like Homelander. Starlight. After renouncing her superhero status and wanting to just live her life as a regular human, Starlight came to the realization that being the face and figurehead of an organization that referred to themselves as Starlighters, it meant that she had to embrace the fact that she was a soup, because if she didn't, then the support for her group could potentially start to fade. No matter how hard she tried to keep it pent up inside of her, she knew that in order to actually make change, she needed to embrace her powers, and we saw her do it on multiple different occasions. The first was when she needed to save Kimiko and Frenchie, but another was when she addressed the people that were in front of her and almost used her light as a symbol of solidarity and to show that the group were all together as one. Her main goal is to take down Homelander and prevent the soup supremacy from becoming an actual thing. We saw a fair bit of Starlight, but it feels like part of her demise could come from the fact that Firecracker was introduced into the Seven, and it seems like Starlight's past is going to be unearthed. Starlight and Firecracker knew each other from when they were younger and on the pageant circuit, and it seemed like Starlight was unkind to her because of where she came from. Starlight looked pretty traumatized at the prospect of information from what she was like when she was younger being released to the people. So I wonder if there's more dirt that's going to be rising to the surface about Starlight. Something which could go against the Starlighters and even make many of them question the legitimacy of the person that they're championing to be their hero. Let's remember as well, Sister Sage specifically selected Firecracker, so there's a definite reason behind it. Sister Sage. Now, this character had some great moments in the show. When you think that being the smartest person on the planet couldn't be used in an offensive way, she manages to make it look like a power that has no real way of defending it. Whether that be in reading people, knowing the movements of people, and even the behavior and predicting how they're going to act, she's essentially able to manipulate any situation to her own advantage, and to Homelander's advantage at the moment, and it's a power that I didn't think would be as impressive as what it was to watch. Whilst she's been placed into the Seven by Homelander and been tasked to aid him in the actions that he carries out, I'm wondering if he's gonna live to regret it, because she's already been able to get rid of Ashley, change the behavior of the Deep, and also talk to Homelander in a way that he's not been spoken to before, showing that she has a grasp on the group. A-Train. Guilt seems to be another theme that's at the core of this season of the show, and it's present most with A-Train. The killing of 3 innocent people due to Homelander asking him, the Deep, and Black Noir is keeping him up at night, but it also feels like the fact that his own family is against him and that he's lived his life as a lie in being this fake hero has finally caused him to reach the end of his tether. We saw that he handed the video footage over to Starlight and Hughie, which proved that the Starlighters that were accused of the killings of the Homelander 3 didn't happen. And we saw him also tell Mother's Milk where Homelander was meeting with Newman in a secret meeting. So it shows us that he's definitely on the turning point and no longer aligns with the views of Homelander. I think that means certain death for A-Train in this season. It won't take long for Homelander and Sister Sage to realize that A-Train is the person that's behind the meddling. There was a moment where we saw that A-Train saved Hughie from Homelander's laser vision in the final episode, and Hughie asked him, "Why did you do that?" To which A-Train just then ran off. But I think he did it because of what happened in the very first episode of the very first season of the show, when he ran through Hughie's girlfriend and killed her. He didn't mention it, but I think that was his way of trying to make things right between them. Again, showing that guilt is festering inside of A-Train's mind and he no longer wants to be the person that he once was. Frenchie and Kimiko. Like most seasons of the show, Frenchie and Kimiko have a story that's very similar and they coincide with one another. Both of their stories are about their pasts and the things that they've done which are haunting them in the present day. For Frenchie, it's all about Colin, somebody that he's grown close to and has developed feelings for, but he can't take things further because he was responsible for the death of Colin's entire family at the orders of somebody else. So that's something that's going to be explored throughout the season, as well as every other killing that he committed, as it all came to him in the hallucination. And with Kimiko, she's looking to hunt down the people that are part of the Shining Light organization, which are focused on exploiting children. When she went into the warehouse, there was somebody that she was fighting that she let run away. Could this be somebody that she was once imprisoned there with? I reckon it could be. Hughie. Hughie's father had a stroke during the first episode of Season 4, and it seems as though the past is something which is present within his story too. This is because his mother arrived at the hospital and he hadn't seen her since he was 6 years old. We don't know much about their relationship, only the fact that she walked out one Friday after being in a depressed state, and then once she tried to reach out to him and Hughie's father denied it, she eventually stopped. She has the legal right to unplug the machine if the time comes to do so, and Hughie did go to a lawyer to try and get it changed, so I do wonder if there's going to come a time where that decision will need to be made and it will ultimately cause trouble between the pair. Hughie also has a deep sense of loyalty to Butcher and wanting him to return to the boys, so I wonder if the boys are going to ultimately end up divided. My review of the episodes. I thought the first 3 episodes of Season 4 did everything it needed to immerse us back into the world of the boys. There genuinely isn't another show like it, other than Gen V, but this one just hits different to that. The show did a great job at setting up the landscape of the environment and the hostility that's present not only amongst the people of the city, but the government and also the 2 different sides. Anthony Starr and Carl Urban being back as Homelander and Butcher was exactly what the start of the summer needed. Their comedic chemistry but pure level of hatred for one another is something that's just incredible to watch when the scenes unfold. It already feels like there's a lot that needs to happen in this season of the show, and with only 5 episodes left, that already doesn't feel like a lot of time. Hence why I feel like this season is probably going to flow into the 5th and final season when that starts getting worked on. The Deep already feels like his character has a cool story on the go. Him being sick and tired of being treated poorly and being told what to do, but also the relationship with his octopus. That's something that genuinely has me laughing when they're together, so I hope we get more of that. I'll be covering the show every week, so be sure to come back every Thursday for breakdowns of Season 4. I'll also be doing many other videos outside of the episode breakdowns as well. So, there you have it. The Boys Season 4 Episode 1 to 3 Ending Explained.